Moving along on to step number 55 of the 67 steps. The 7 habits of highly unsuccessful people and the tardy tree sloth. How to invert your way into getting what you want. And this lesson is all about inversion. And in fact, the title of this lesson is a play on the famous self-help book by Stephen Covey called The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And, we start off this lesson with a quote from 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. And he said, "I learn from everyone I meet. Often it's what not to do." And, this whole idea is about learning from the mistakes of others and doing the opposite. And fortunately, a lot of people are showing you through their actions and habits what not to do. And, there's the fictional character Sherlock Holmes by author Arthur Conan Doyle, who says, "When you remove all that can't be true, what you're left with is true, even if it seems unlikely." And, life is a discovery process, and unfortunately, most people never figure out what they should be doing in life. You have to make hard decisions oftentimes without all of the available information, and this is called optimal stopping. And otherwise, you'll have analysis by paralysis. And certainly the internet is an amazing tool, but you can research everything to death and never take any action. And of course, you don't want to do the opposite of that and jump right into things without knowing what you're doing. And the best way to get answers to life's big questions, like how to make more money, how to be healthy, how to have good love in your life, and how to be happy, is to invert and ask the opposite. So instead of going directly at what you want, at least initially, first figure out what you definitely don't want. So you would ask, instead of how do I make a lot of money, say, how do I stay poor? Instead of asking how do I get healthy, how do I optimize my health, the first of the 4 pillars, instead ask how do I get unhealthy? And certainly there's a famous movie that was made like 20 years ago called Super Size Me. The guy ate nothing but McDonald's and got irreversible poor health effects. So we can infer that don't eat processed food, at least not for the majority of your diet. And, in regard to the wealth pillar, the second of the good life, health, wealth, love, and happiness, Charlie Munger was asked, how do you become successful? And he said, first figure out how not to be successful. And he says, it's sloth and unreliability. So you could replace sloth with laziness, but so we can infer from that to be wealthy, you need to be energetic and reliable. And Ty says in his experience, unreliability is the #1 killer of financial dreams. He encourages you by explaining, if you save 10% of what you make from age 16 years old and onward, you'll retire just fine. The problem is that a lot of people save and then stop saving or spend all their savings and have to start all over again. It's where, number 1. And he says you have to stay with it for it to stay with you. So commitment is everything, and consistency. And Ty's aunt was married for 65 years happily, and so he asked her, what does she attribute to her successful marriage? And she said, trust and communication. So the opposite of that would be to not be trustworthy and not be communicative. Not be, don't be shady. And for happiness, Mother Teresa says most people are unhappy because they're focused on their own happiness instead of the happiness of others. And there certainly is a lot of happiness to being part of something bigger than yourself. So unhappiness will come from thinking the world revolves around you, and it definitely doesn't. Ty says the key to success is to know thyself. Know if you're an introvert or mostly an extrovert, and know how you learn. Do you learn visually? Do you learn verbally? Do you learn kinesthetically by doing, or do you learn by talking like I do? That's why I'm doing these videos. And you know, some people learn in group settings, some people learn alone and have to write things out. So the key thing is to what's called know your constitution. And you know, this inversion method is powerful because it articulates pitfalls clearly. And once you see all the mind holes you don't want to step in, you more clearly see the pathway you want to pursue. And his questions for you at the end of this episode are, what are some things that will not get you wealthy, healthy, happy, or in love? And what are some of your core constitutions? Thanks again. See you on review number 56. Take care.